The art of prayer. Every civilization has raised its hands. It is one of the oldest gestures in existence. Before writing, before cities, before markets and laws, there was already someone who stopped, looked upward, and said something, or said nothing but stopped. That stopping was already a prayer. We forget this easily. We live in an age that has turned time into a sequence of tasks to be executed, and silence into something to be filled. The phone always in hand, notifications arriving even at night. There is always something to watch, to reply to consume. Prayer is the exact opposite. It is the gesture of someone who stops, who surrenders, who turns around, who says, I am here now and not alone. Before we go further, a reminder that I am working on a book gathering these reflections, which will be available soon. How does one pray then? The question seems obvious, but the moment you ask it seriously, you realize the answers are countless. Some pray on their knees, some standing, some with arms open wide. Some recite an ancient text, some speak freely, some remain in silence and say nothing at all. Some use the rosary, some the breviary, some light a candle, some walk, some sing, some dance, some weep, some simply stare at a fixed point in the darkness of a room. All of them are praying, in different ways, with different means, but at the deepest level, they are doing the same thing, placing themselves before someone greater than themselves. The Christian world has developed, over time, an extraordinary variety of forms. Catholics and Orthodox Christians attach great importance to codified prayer, precise liturgies, canonical hours, formulas repeated across centuries. There is a beauty in this that must be understood. When you recite the same words that medieval monks recited, that the Desert Fathers recited, that the Christians of the earliest communities recited, you place yourself within a current that comes from far away and travels far ahead. You become part of something larger than your single moment. Form is not a cage, it is a root. Evangelical and Pentecostal Christians lean instead far more heavily on spontaneous prayer. Words born now, from what you are living through now. A family gathered around a table, speaking to God as one would speak to a father who is present in the room. A community raising free, deeply personal, improvised voices. There is an enormous power in this as well. Spontaneous prayer says, God is not confined to the liturgy. He is here, in this room, in this concrete life. The two traditions often regard each other with a degree of suspicion. Catholics think that Protestants pray too informally. Protestants think that Catholics hide behind formulae. The truth is that both are right and both are wrong at the very same time. Form without heart is an empty shell, but heart without form, over time, scatters. The Christians of the earliest centuries prayed 3 times a day. We know this from an ancient text called the Didache, one of the oldest Christian documents we possess, dating in all probability to the close of the 1st century. It says, pray in this way 3 times a day, and it sets out the Our Father. The prayer that Jesus himself had taught his disciples had already become the backbone of the Christian day. Consider those Christians in the catacombs of Rome, men and women who gathered by night underground, because by day their lives were at risk. They lit a few oil lamps, they sang, they prayed, they read the texts circulating among the communities. They broke bread. In those dark galleries, something powerful was taking shape, a prayer made not of comfort, but of courage, a prayer that cost something. The words they used were often the words of the Psalms, because the Psalms were the ready-made prayer, the one inherited from the Jewish tradition that Jesus himself had prayed. Psalm 22 opens with, my God, why have you forsaken me?" These are the very words Jesus speaks from the cross. The early Christians took them up and made them their own. In those words, they recognized their own voice. The Psalms are the great library of human prayer, 150 texts that cover everything: joy, grief, anger, thanksgiving, despair, hope. There is no human emotion that does not find its place in the Psalms. There is a psalm for those who have lost everything. There is a psalm for those who have won and fear losing. There is a psalm for the sick, for those in exile, for those waiting for something that will not come. What is extraordinary is that the Psalms never ceased. The Christian tradition continued composing them. Medieval monks wrote hymns that were new psalms. Francis of Assisi wrote the Canticle of the Creatures, which is itself a psalm. The great mystics, from Hildegard of Bingen to John of the Cross, left behind texts that are poetry and prayer together, inseparably. To this day, in every corner of the Christian world, someone is setting down their cry to heaven in writing. Someone who does not consider himself a poet, but who on that particular night needed to find the right words and found them. Prayer and poetry come from the same place, from the need to say something that ordinary conversation cannot contain, from the need to give form to what is too large to remain inside. But there is something that comes before all else, before method, before form, before the language and tradition in which you were raised. And it is this: placing oneself before God, not around God, not speaking about God with others, not reading books about God, joining communities, taking on roles, doing useful things for the church. All of this has its value, but none of it is prayer. Prayer is the moment in which it is you, alone or in company, it matters little, and you are face to face. You are present. You are there. Every Christian must do this every day, and it is not a moral obligation. It is a vital necessity, like drinking water, like sleeping, like looking someone you love in the face to remind yourself that they truly exist. God does not need our prayers. This must be said plainly. He does not need to be informed of what happens to us. He already knows everything. But we need to tell him. We need that gesture, to stop, to turn, to say, "You are there, I am here, this moment exists." You may use the words of an ancient psalm or your own clumsy words from this morning. You may kneel or sit on the edge of your bed. You may sing or remain in complete silence. You may have 5 minutes or an hour. Almost none of that matters. What matters is that you are present. What matters is that you place yourself before him. The rest follows of its own accord.